Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Brings us to tonight's event. Scream All Night is a darkly hilarious romp about growing up and finding your place in the world. It's been called hilarious, heart-wrenching, with plenty of absurdity wrapped in undeniable heart, and a searingly original debut. Derek Milman has worked as a playwright, screenwriter, film school teacher, DJ, and underground humor magazine publisher. A classically trained actor, he's performed on stages across the country and appeared in numerous TV shows, commercials, and films. Derek currently resides in Brooklyn, New York, where he writes fiction full-time, plays video games really badly, and buys lime green hoodies made of locally sourced hemp. Scream All Night is his first novel. Best known as the first crossover character, the fan favorite Pepper on FX's hit anthology series American Horror Story, Asylum, and Freak Show, Naomi Grossman was named one of IMDb's top 10 breakout stars after her star meter skyrocketed to number 1, making her the most searched in its 8 million person database. The Television Academy considered her for an Emmy for her portrayal in 2015, and Entertainment Weekly called her being cast in the role the best in 2012. Fans may also recognize her from cameos in the feature films Table for Three, The Chair, Sky Sharks, Short Stack, and more. We're thrilled to have them with us this evening. Please join me in giving them a warm welcome.
Thank you all for being here.
Hello,
Awesome.
I'm Derek. I almost fell down the stairs, so it was really awkward. Falls down the stairs. Naomi is dressed as the cover.
As the
I just want you all
cover.
to appreciate that for a second. She's wearing a bat. Cool, so let's get started.
So no one's read it yet, right?
Right,
This is
yeah.
the launch.
It came out on Tuesday, so very few people have actually, a lot of people here have read it, like my friends and family, but like the general public, not,
Sure, okay.
just getting around to, but I'm getting a lot of tweets and texts and Instagram tags, and it seems like people are really like into it, and it's really moving actually.
Yeah.
Cool to see. Yeah.
Well, we'll do a Q&A afterwards,
Yes,
but for
we will.
right now, tell us about it.
The Scream All Night is about a 17-year-old kid named Dario Heyward. He grew up in a B horror movie studio called Moldavia, which is in a gothic castle called Moldavia, but he was a very nervous, sensitive kid, and he was being sort of mistreated by his father when he got cast as the lead role in the zombie movie, which became a big cult hit for the studio. And he got legally emancipated and is living in a group home when he gets a call from his much older brother, Oren, who he's estranged from, telling him, "Come home, our father's terminally ill," and Dario winds up inheriting the estate and the studio, and he has to decide whether or not to accept his family legacy or sort of leave all the pain and the trauma behind him. It is a dark screwball comedy, but it has a very livid emotional core. It's very emotional too. It has a darkness to it, but it has a very zany tone.
Yeah. Well, what I personally loved about it is that I could hear you throughout.
Oh,
Like
really?
it was like having my
That's like talking in your
old
ear.
college friend,
Oh.
in my ear the whole time.
So we went to college together. We were in an acting class, 5 years ago in college. And,
Right.
why is that funny? So that's how we became friends. And you said that you recognized a lot of people.
I did.
Yeah. So.
So tell us about some of those. I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
Are there?
I wouldn't say specifically that people I know. I think there are just facets of me that went into all those characters. There's not like people who are directly inspired Oren or directly inspired Dario. Dario is probably my avatar in a sense that he has my sensitivity and my sort of emotional vulnerability and my very snarky sense of humor and my sense of the absurd. So he's very much me, but Oren represents another side of me, and Hayley represents another side of me, Hayley is Dario's sort of long-lost love who he gets reunited with at Moldavia when he returns. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I personally, I felt like it was part Willy Wonka, part Lemony Snicket, part The Great Gatsby, part Catcher in the
A
Rye.
little bit of Crime and Punishment,
Yeah.
Kowski, you all sort of throw in there.
No, truly, it had. You've really
Harry Potter, the
created
Sorcerer's
a world.
Thank you.
That's what I loved about it. It's like those movies. It's like. There's a whole universe that's created.
Yeah, that's something that I was going to actually talk about because like a lot of people think world building is really just for like high fantasy novels or hard science fiction. I don't know what sorry, adverbs before these hard science fiction, high fantasy. But there's world building throughout contemporary fiction, and there was world building that went into Moldavia, that went into Scream All Night, and I used a lot of real life inspirations as research to sort of build the world of Moldavia and the castle. Hammer Horror, for instance, was a big influence. They were a British, if you don't know, they were a British film company that was sort of existed in the 50s, and they had a repertory company of actors who went on to be famous, like Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, who was in Star Wars, and Oliver Reed, and they all were making these creature features. They had a deal with Universal, which is interesting because not everyone knows this, but Universal actually owns the look to all the classic monsters. So when you picture Frankenstein in your head, or the Mummy, or Dracula, they own that look. So, I mean, it's in the public domain. You're welcome to go adapt Frankenstein or Dracula, but you can't use that look. So they had a deal with Universal, so they're able to make all these creature features, and they sort of formed a repertory company of actors, and they did for a while move to a country estate in the British countryside called Bray Studios, where they had filmed Rocky Horror. This is later, and they for a while filmed everything in this house, using every angle and every room until they were like, well, that's it, and then they left. And if you watch some of these movies, they're not that, they're a little bit drab because they're like in 3 rooms. It's like, because Dracula is like, I'm going to suck your blood. But first let's come into the kitchen and then we'll go back into the dining room. They're like in 2 rooms. It's like, it doesn't really go. They're very schlocky, and that was a big influence, was Hammer. So I did a lot of research. I had the idea first, then I went back and I did a lot of research about Hammer and how they operated, and so to bring an air of authenticity to the book. So it wouldn't just be a carnival of the absurd. It'd be grounded in something.
I mean, I wonder, because reading it, there were certain people that were very familiar to me, and then others I thought, who is this Derek Milman? Where did all this come from?
Yeah.
Are you actually like a heir to some movie studio somewhere? No, not at all.
Sadly, no.
Oh.
No, but there was a bit of method work that I brought from my acting past, where I was writing or drafting throughout the day, and then at night I would do a lot of research, not just on horror movies, but on low-budget filmmaking, on mental illness, because Dario's mother is schizophrenic, and we had to get that right. In terms of every little beat, every moment had to be perfect. So the day would be divided in terms of writing for 5 to 6 hours, and then maybe taking a break, and then researching, watching films, reading books. Sometimes, 10 books would go into one scene, which I didn't know was possible. So I kind of got dipped in the world. I was sort of immersed myself so I could live through Dario's experience. And that wasn't always, sometimes it was beneficial for the writing, but sometimes it was mentally rough, because there's a very sad scene in the book where he visits his mom, and she's in this mental institution, and a reader will get through that and be moved by that maybe in 4 minutes, but it took me weeks to write that and get it right. I was sort of submerged in that moment for a long time, so it wears on you. It's very similar to performing.
I'm sure.
There's a lot of parallels.
So there's a lot of hilarious, fictitious films.
Yes.
Within.
Yes.
Um,
Drink the Blood, My Darling is one. The Goblins That Only Ate Cake. The Stranglers of Strangelove Cove. Dial W for Witchcraft. I'm trying to remember if there's more. They're scattered throughout.
I'm dying to see this filmography.
Yeah, so like I did actually write a filmography. They all have plots and complete with casts. But I thought maybe it would be fun to include it in the final version, but HarperCollins was like, no, it's all right. So I still have it. I might do something with it, maybe put it on my website.
But this is the next Harry Potter that, I mean, seriously.
Yeah, sure.
For now it's Scream All Night, but it's going to be Scream All Day, Scream All Afternoon,
We'll just keep
Scream All...
going. And then I'll lay out Castle in Scotland.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so yeah.
Wow. Okay, so YA, like why YA?
Young adult, so that's an interesting question. What you just said, Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling kind of, when I was a kid, there was a young adult section in the library, but it was like one little rack, and it was very cheesy looking book. There wasn't really a thing, although it had a name. She came along and sort of made it a serious facet of publishing. Mm-hmm. Once Harry Potter happened, it sort of splintered. So we had lots of subgenres. We had the paranormal romance, we had the Twilight, we had what's called contemporary, which John Green sort of paved the way for. I had to sort of wait my turn until my voice matched where publishing was, that Scream All Night would find it's kind of a risky book. It's no one's really read anything like it. Yeah. So I kind of had to wait my turn until I saw an in. And when I was very young, I started reading J.D. Salinger. My dad gave me, not Catcher in the Rye, he gave me like the other books when I was like 7. He's like, here's Frankie and Zoe, here's Seymour. So that voice was in my head growing up, as well as like the Adrian Mole books, which are fantastic, by Sue Townsend, which were these sort of middle grade. He was like 13, but I was like 9 when I was reading, so he seemed super old and very sophisticated. And like that. So I was reading those books, but also reading like literary fiction. And then, as you know, in college I got cast as Zoe and Franny and Zoe in our legal production, our very good but illegal production of Franny and Zoe. And so when I played that role, I think the voice of got sort of in my blood. So I had that, I don't know, that sort of rhythm, the sound of what a young person would sound like, and so I sort of took my time to develop it. But a lot of major works of literature are technically young adult, from The Goldfinch to This Side of Paradise, Old Man and the Sea, Catcher in the Rye. There's like all our seminal work, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. All these seminal works are technically YA. And YA is a very serious component of literature, and it deserves to be taken seriously. But I think there's something about the awakening of a person, and where everything is hyperbolic and everything's being experienced for the first time, that's powerful, that lends itself to art and lends itself to literature as well as film.
Right. I mean, there's other things that are really very adult to me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an acid trip.
Yes. He gets dosed with so.
Was that inspired by us eating mushrooms?
No, I never did. You did that. I did. No, you did that, and I took care of you all. Don't you remember? Like, I'm like, you got kicked out of that restaurant.
Yeah,
remember? Yeah, you're all like seeing raccoons flying around, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I was like, you ate those bagels. Yeah, so no, I didn't do that. I was very like, no, it's not a good idea for me to do that.
No, it's not that. Yeah, no, but there was definitely subject. I mean, there's a sex scene.
Yes, the sex scene was actually much more graphic. I'm steadily trying to push the envelope, but they were like, they call them the gatekeepers, like they're like, it's like a Game of Thrones, but they like the gatekeepers, which are the parents. You need to pull back a little bit. It's like the envelope keeps getting pushed a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. And I think it served the story better anyway. I probably would have pushed back if I felt like it was gonna harm the story or make it less strong. We were in the same acting class, and we learned from Kim to always make the most interesting choice, and that applies to all the arts, not just acting. It applies to writing as well. And it was interesting to hear what the editor's perspective was. It wasn't just necessarily we're going to pull back because people won't buy the book, partly, and people, but it was also, all right, well, let me see my way in with the story to make this the strongest choice.
Of course.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What other kind of art inspires you? I mean, you're also an actor.
I'm a very visual person. I love going to museums, and obviously there's definitely a cinematic quality to my writing, and a very visual sense of things. So like, I will watch films, and I will go and photography. I'm very interested in photography, and if I have downtime, I will go and check out galleries, and I'll go and look at paintings, and that inspire. One painting can inspire like a whole story for me. The visual arts for sure.
So you just said something very interesting. That you said it was very cinematic.
Yeah.
Which I would definitely agree with. I understand you have some exciting Hollywood news.
Yeah, there is the Scream All Night has been optioned for TV by some amazing people. We're here. Sean Hayes and Todd Moner, Hazy Mills have optioned, and we're going to move forward and try to make this into like this amazing TV series, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm like so. Like I'm disbelieving, but also like grateful, and disbelieving and grateful, and just like I just feel very lucky.
Oh, but I see it.
They're so sweet of them to come.
So awesome.
So it's really exciting. It's really exciting. I think it'll be great for that. I really do.
No, I mean I see it.
Yeah. A lot of people. So I mean, everything I write tends to have a visual, because I grew up reading books and watching movies. So everything is visual to me. So I write visually. If that makes sense.
Yes.
It doesn't.
You mentioned what books influenced you as a kid. What movies? What's your favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror movie? Oh gosh, I can't. I get asked that a lot now, and I wasn't like a horror freak, and then decided to write the book. I was a movie freak who decided to write the book, and then I learned about horror. My favorite horror movies tend to be the ones people already know about and celebrate, like The Exorcist and The Shining and Rosemary's Baby. The ones that have the great actors and the great directors are the scariest to me. Even maybe lesser known ones like The Omen with Gregory Peck or The Changeling with George C. Scott. Those are all really good because the acting is there and the direction is there, so it makes it more real. I can name a lot of random ones like Terror Train, like Happy Birthday to Me. If you're taking notes, these are all. Most of them have Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't know how she made all these. She must have she was so busy during this decade, but she's in like 90% of them in some capacity. So yeah.
I love it. I haven't been paying attention to the time. Do we have time? Are we ready for other people's questions?
You guys have some questions? We can take some questions.
Well, I don't know. I have more too.
You have more too?
I do.
All right.
Well, tell us about the cover. Tell us about my dress.
Your breasts are great. The cover was inspired by, there's a beautiful book called The Art of Hammer, which is the collection of Hammer horror posters, which are pulpy and colorful and beautiful and strange, and I sent them to HarperCollins as inspiration. But I think they felt it was a little bit too genre specific for the cover, so they kind of took this, or you can see here. I'm going to put this right here. So they made this sort of like a Hollywood sign, and they actually had asked me for photos of castles. So I sent them like 45 different photos of castles, and then there's a thing about blossoms in the book, which they did, and they made the castles here. So it has this sort of fun goth feel, almost like Halloweenish. But also there's a cinematic thing with the lights. I think they did a great job. I will emphasize that a writer really has not much control over this kind of thing, covers or. But they did a lot of really cool, like the spot gloss is beautiful, and there's a red binding, and it's actually my favorite thing. I'll show you. The silver. I made me so happy. So what was the publishing process like? When did you start all this? So I had written a young adult manuscript many years ago, not many, maybe like 2013, and that got me my agent, and it got the attention of HarperCollins, who there was an editor who took me under her wing, which is a very, very rare thing to happen. So I was teaching at the time, and I sort of quit my job because it was sort of draining the life out of me to sort of focus on this book, and so we went through several stages of editing, and it almost got sold at Harper and at Razorville, which is Penguin. So two houses tried to buy it, but then it got shut down in acquisitions because people thought it was too ambitious. They couldn't think of comp titles, so they thought this is too unique. And it's basically similar to Stranger Things that came after, so now I'm like, really? But while that was on submission, I was writing Scream All Night, and that sold pretty quickly. We actually had a double offer from HarperCollins. So there were two imprints vying for it, which was Balzer and Bray, which is one I picked, and Harper Teen. and we felt balls were very a better choice. And then while Scream All Night was on submission, I was like, well, I'm just going to keep going, and I wrote another YA, which is actually coming out in the spring, apparently. It's coming out in the spring, next spring. I've been on deadline for that while I've been promoting Scream, so I just turned in the revisions, which were due August 1st, so my head has been spinning around, and I've been like sort of promoting this, but my creative brain has been in the new one.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There's already a Scream All Night. What
It's not really
is it? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it is called, well, actually they're changing the title. This I'm having very little control over, actually. They're changing the title and the cover. We're not sure what it's going to be yet. It is an LGBTQ thriller. It's a Hitchcockian thriller about a gay teen who gets caught up in a case of mistaken identity and has to go on the run from cyber terrorists and federal agents, the government, each of them exploiting him to their own purposes. It's sort of a loose homage to North by Northwest, and there's a gay terrorist organization called the Swans, and they want to take down all the alt-right people. So it's like, who are the bad guys here? And he's this sort of broken kid who's, there's a lot of coming out stories, but I was like, no, I want to have an openly gay, sexually active teen. I wanted him to know who he is, and that's part of his. And they're like, okay. And James Patterson has an imprint at Little Brown, so he actually was a big part of this. He's very actively involved, and they acquired it. So it's going to be Little Brown coming out next spring.
Wow.
Yep.
So exciting.
Also to be a movie directed by Steven Spielberg. Not kidding.
I mean, you know.
Yeah. Left turn for him. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
You can take questions.
Do people have questions?
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
So what has been the reaction from your actual YA audience? We're like, ooh, we love Derek, and what has been the reaction from your 13-year-olds?
I haven't heard much from actual teens yet. I've heard from, it seems like it's very spread out in terms of kids actually reading this and also like adults reading it. So I've heard from a lot of adults who are really responding to the humor in the book and also very surprised by the fact that they were moved by it. They didn't expect the darkness in it, and there's a lot of heavy topics. There's abuse and mental illness and our DNA and family life. There's a lot of things that and so people are responding like, this is not what I expected. And some people were expecting like a straight up horror or straight up thriller, and we're like, this is not a thriller, but I loved it, but I liked that it had this, I liked it. So that's been the response so far. People just seem really surprised by it and are responding to its originality and the concept and the storytelling, which I'm thrilled about. And I love that people are responding to the humor and are quoting lines. That's a really good sign that starts happening early. So that's really good. So far it's been, it's only been since Tuesday, but so far so good in this week. Yeah.
Get ready, they're very opinionated on it.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I know. Yes, anyone else?
Yeah, I see a whole subgenre, this very meta situation where we have not only the squeezers or screamers, squeezers, the fans of Scream All Night, but then all your other the Killer Cauliflowers.
Right.
We need to see that movie too.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we will.
We will?
Sure, maybe. The Killer Cauliflowers is the movie that Oren, Dario's deluded older brother, thinks is going to save the studio, and it comes from a total B-movie background, but it also comes from my background as an actor and having to deal with so many scripts, and I'm like, what? Especially at Yale Drama, where we were working very closely with the playwrights. Where are my Yale people? Raise your hand. Remember? So we were having to deal with a lot of these plays. We're like, really? Okay. And so I think that influenced a lot of what Oren was doing in that with the Killer Cauliflowers. And
actually, that reminds me. There's only because there are Yale people here as well as Northwestern. Go Cavs. There was it's kind of a Yale versus Harvard.
Oh yeah, it's a very subtle.
What is
it? Dario gets accepted to Harvard, and he's sort of deciding between going to Harvard and going to and accepting his role at Moldavia. It was originally Princeton, but they were really snooty about talking to me about their admission process. While Harvard was and it just seemed to make more sense because they also I researched everything. Harvard is more accepting of gap years, and that's a thing in the book as well. And then there's a character at the end who went to Yale, and that's how he introduces himself, and that's a little bit of a wink to Yale and that character.
I feel a little slighted. The Wildcats were not represented.
I'm sorry.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I really kind of want to do a quick staged reading of the Justin Bieberman versus Shaman, but I know you're not prepared for that.
You want to
No, I mean, there's literally a character named Justin Bieberman.
Yeah, he doesn't realize that what he's doing in many ways.
He's just sort of subconsciously influenced by TMZ or something.
Or maybe not even that. Maybe just lost in his own world. He's an infantile character. He hasn't really seen the world. He has ambitions of being an au pair in Prussia. He doesn't even know that Prussia doesn't exist anymore. He lives in a Moldavia movie that was never made. He was a lot of fun to write. He was a great creation for me. But look, do you guys have any more questions?
Seriously.
Oh, Max.
Hi, good to see you. Did you write all of Warren's script or to include?
No, I had a ghostwriter, Max. Yeah, I wrote all of Warren's script.
No, but the whole thing, I mean.
Oh, you mean did I write 120 pages of the Killer Cauliflowers?
Yeah.
No.
Not 120.
No, I wrote those.
More than what was included.
No, actually, that was a fairly streamlined thing. That's pretty much unchanged too. Within the book, there's Oren's script for the Killer Cauliflowers, which is people mention a lot because it's a giant disaster, and so that's a big part of the conflict of the book. And so there's a little bit of screenplay in the book, but no, I actually wrote those sections, and they haven't changed much since I just wrote them. Everyone's like, "Yep, that's pretty much it." But no, I didn't write a full script for Oren, like I did with the fake movies where I created plots for them in my head. I didn't do that for the Killer Cauliflowers. It's pretty much the scenes in the book are what he wrote. It's what's there. But that's a good question. Yes, Ben.
What was the initial inspiration for the book? What was that first thing that said, I need to do this and invest all this time into the story?
When I was a kid, we took a tour. It's my brother here. We grew up together. We took a tour of Universal Studios, and I remember seeing all the facades of movies that I love, from Back to the Future to Psycho. I did see that at a very young age, and I remember them taking us through rooms where they had props and furniture, and everything was on this lot. And I thought, what if there was a castle that just functions as a self-contained studio, and they actually make movies in this castle, and it's sort of weatherproof. All the big rooms are sound stages, and there's a lighting department upstairs, and there's a creature department in the whale wing, which Dario goes, unfortunately, when he's accidentally trips on, gets dosed with psilocybin. That's not a good thing. And there's like a lighting wing, and so I had the idea many years ago that what if a kid inherits a B horror movie studio that's all in this castle? But it just seemed too outlandish. It seemed like impossible to bring it to fruition. It just took a few years. I had to write other things first before I was able to gather the confidence and then use the research to ground the story, so that this did sort of happen with Hammer Horror and Trauma Films too, which was different than Hammer. They made more like Toxic Avenger, more exploitative stuff, not the creature features, but I used those things as as a way in, and then eventually I sent 50 pages to my agent, and she's like, "I'm getting on a train," and so she met me at a bar near my apartment, and we kind of just talked about it. She's like, "I love this, I love the characters, I love the family, I love the setting," and then we figured out what the plot was going to be, what the main conflicts were. It came in stages. It had to marinate a while. Anyone else?
We have a young Hayley with
Is that your son?
It is.
How many days have you been writing this?
That's a really good question. Well, this fall will mark 3 years since I first started drafting Scream All Night. So almost 3 years ago. Yeah. Good question, though. Oh my God, he's so cute. Good question.
So right after we got out of college.
Yeah, I was super into that. I was like, I'm just going to go do this. Yeah, good that you kept on that timeline. Anyone else? Yes?
So what do you think the key is to getting kids to read?
The key to getting kids to read? Ooh, that's a good question. I think ultimately reading just has to be fun. I think they just have to They have to be into the idea. No one in publishing really knows what's going to hit next, and that's the thing with trends, where people start trying to write for trends, but then when the book is eventually on submission, that trend is over. Like there's no more gay werewolves anymore. You can't do that, and that's done. Or paranormal romance. Or everything has its moment. So I think kids respond to truth. And they will be attracted to books that have an element of truth where they see themselves in them, which is why I think Angie Thomas had such a major success at The Hate You Give, and Becky Albertalli with Simon, I'm just naming people at my imprint, at Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. It's just certain things hit at the right moment, and I think kids see themselves in the idea, in the characters, and then word of mouth builds it. And I think if it's fun for them, if they relate to it, it's not forced on them. That works. I mean, when I was a kid, I was like, when we were in high school, there's a lot of 19th century British literature from like a lot of Thomas Hardy that was sort of foisted on me, and it was rough. I was 14. I'm like, I don't want to read the tests of the D'Urbervilles right now. I'm not. But I think it's different if it's pleasure and if it's an idea that they. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes.
Will there be an audiobook version?
There is an audiobook version. Yeah.
For those who don't.
Yeah, there's an audiobook. There's an audiobook, there's an ebook, and there's the hardcover. Yeah. Dan Bittner.
Yeah.
You know him? He has like a following.
I'm a narrator.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's also something I didn't really have. The author doesn't really have much input. They kind of just do it. Harvard they have an audio division and they just take care of it. And they're like, yeah, here it is. Hope you like it.
I think you should have done it. I mean, I hear your voice.
Yeah, but they don't do that.
And you're not.
Yeah, unless it's like a celebrity memoir, they don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not done there. But they just have their own rules about it. It's fine. Whatever. Anyone else? No? Should we just move to the signing then?
Should we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do
All right,
it.
we're gonna sign some books.
Yay!
Thank you guys.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.